Bon dia. My name is Roberta Bigliani. I'm responsible for IDC Insights in Europe, and I'm really happy to be with you today for the IDC Digital Innovation Connection. The topic of my presentation today will be the race to the future utility, hands in the now, eyes on the next normal. And in order to get started, let me just focus on what is going on in the industry, because 2020 was not an easy year for all of us. And we have seen demand for the commodity, both gas and electricity, dropping dramatically. And that was related, of course, to the economic slowdown. We also had to face more cyber attack and also handled some disruption in the supply chain that has actually implication in terms of the capability to execute some field works and also in some situation to do some maintenance to the asset, especially generation assets. But if we look at the performances, the industry was very resilient, and there were not real impact on the security of supply and all the measurement that were needed to basically put people in the field and in the headquarter in safe mode for working was absolutely happening. And we have not stopped as an industry our ambitious plan to basically look for an energy transition that has electricity or renewable specifically as part of the energy mix with a significant portion. And so, as you can see on the slides, what we are expecting is to actually double wind in the next 10 years and triple solar in the next 10 years. Now, what is happening in reality? I think that as an industry, what we have to try to do is to balance resilience and reinvention to create value, to basically be able to understand what is needed and what we have to take action now in this very moment, but at the same time, prepare for the next normal and keep our eyes in what will be the relevance of the industry and of each and every company as part of the industry. So that's why one of our predictions is really pointing at the fact that what we are expecting is that more and more sustainable business model will be developed, and that will translate into also a request and the need to accelerate the digital transformation and the business architecture. In order to do so, there are 9 areas that I think are absolutely important. And I will read them from the slide so we can read them together. They are operation, work, intelligence, digital infrastructure, connectedness, customer, digital innovation, trust, industry ecosystems. Now, each of these areas is important in terms of action to be carried out. And just to give you a couple of examples of why these are important, let me use, for instance, the customer and consumer area. Now, if we look at the net promoter score of our industries, altogether the energy industry, I mean electricity and gas specifically, the net promoter score is still an issue because it's still negative. And if we want to sell alternative product and services related to the commodity or unrelated to the commodity, if you want to generate new revenue stream, if you want to make customer happy and also be able to acquire more customer, reducing the cost to acquire, well, that's an area we really have to take action. And to give you another example, let me use the example of digital innovation. We all know that maturity is very important, and as an industry, we are taking action. But look at the maturity of our sector in approaching automation. We are still very much in a sort of opportunistic type of approach. So we are executing things in a siloed way in some areas or in some situation as a pilot, but we are not scaling up at the enterprise level. So these are just 2 examples that are proving how much all those 9 areas that I was reading at the beginning are so important. But it's also important to think at those strategic 9 areas, also understanding the correlation that it exists across all of them. And let me use another example to explain this concept. So basically, if you think about work, We were talking about disruption, the need to secure business continuity, leaving people working in some situation, especially in the quarter from home, etc. That was a sort of emergency situation. But what we are going to have is obviously a sort of hybrid working. Well, we'll have multiple way and multiple locations, multiple workers. Now, of course, this is a concept that starts from what we call the future of work, but then immediately raise question on how we can be effective from an operation perspective. And so it goes into the other area. And then immediately after, the point and the question is, how can I make my digital infrastructure scaling up? How does the network infrastructure also scale up? And are we really good in trust in maintaining the security of the workers, wherever they are located? So it's very important from my perspective to take action on those 9 areas, but also to understand the correlation and have an holistic approach to be sure that when we are developing in one dimension, we are not forgetting the intercorrelation with the other dimension. And of course, I don't have the time today to go through each and every of those areas. So I decided to basically think about 3 initiatives that are somehow related to the specific area that I was describing before, but also a little bit cutting across. And so I decided to have your attention on the acceleration of automation initiative, the improvement of the customer digital experience, 2 themes that are related to the example I was giving, and then one further theme that I consider particularly important, especially in building and reinventing the business for the future, which is the new ecosystem strategy. So let's look at the first one, the accelerated automation initiative. I think that automation is a very broad concept, and of course, it applies to any kind of activity that we are doing in our company. So of course, is an element related to the asset operation, the customer operation, and specifically when we think about asset operation, what we are expecting and what we are already observing is that utilities are increasing significantly their spend in automating those operations, putting emphasis, of course, in creating intelligence at the edge and using machine learning and in general artificial intelligence to actually improve the performance and also transform the way we operate by having more predictive and prescriptive maintenance. Automation is also impacting labor. We were discussing before about how to empower the people in the field with hybrid working model. Now, what we are expecting, of course, is that a portion of activities, and actually a significant portion of activity, 45%, will be automated and somehow enhanced by digital workers that will leverage technology like robotic process automation, or actually digital workers are basically built on top of artificial intelligence. And that's an incredible important element if you think about, again, granting the resilience in operation. And all these repetitive tasks are not just related to things that are, if you will, in the IT area, but are really encompassing all the enterprise processes. We'll talk about that in a moment. The other element of automation is also related also to the IT automation. And we are expecting to see more and more operation in IT that will really be automated. And for this reason, the IT workforce will be transformed and will be able to perform completely different tasks, granting resiliency and delivering much more innovation. And in utilities, we know that automation is very important. And it doesn't matter if it is workflow automation, intelligent process automation, case and decision management, but we are aware about the value. And the value is, you can see from the slides, that was a survey that we were executing, that thanks to automation, we can reduce the cost, we can increase efficiency. But at the same time, we can be more effective because we can reduce human errors, especially in boring, repetitive tasks, and increase worker effectiveness in doing the right things in the right moment. And the other element that I would like to stress, and this is something that is particularly important from my perspective, is that automation is also a way to increase service innovation and to speed up the capability of deliver to, for instance, customer new product and services. So it's really an important element. And as I said, utilities are taking action. Of course, information technology, no surprises, the area where the majority of let's say, projects are executed in these days, but also customer operation and the entire suite of enterprise processes. Now, let's move to the next element that I was showing as an important area for taking action because of the NPS, which is the digital customer experience. Now, we have invested a lot in digital channel, but the customer feedback is that those channels are still inadequate. 47% of utility customers are saying that these channels are inadequate. They cannot go through the entire process. They cannot find the information they need. They cannot really have an experience that is effortless. And the percentage of dislike, if you will, or the judgment on inadequateness is even higher the more you go down in the generation. 62% for millennials and 74% for the Gen Z. And I have to say that utilities are recognizing that that's a big issue, because in another survey that we were doing, the industry were saying that improving digital channel is the most important challenge for 63% of utilities. So that's an area where we absolutely have to take action. And what we are expecting and somehow also recommended, if you will, is to think about this area with an approach that, of course, is trying to create one integrated customer journey. And so having a sort of storefront that is combining the different products and services, not just the commodity that the utility can offer, in simplifying the buying experience and maybe putting on top some interesting information about the product that they can buy from an energy perspective, from an efficiency perspective, or in any case, to make easy the process of purchasing those elements. And of course, this means that the customer online journey needs to be designed not just as a customer service type of process, but also as a real e-commerce type of use cases. On the other side, what we are expecting and somehow recommending is that more and more energy utilities will drive their business via digital platform-based solutions that are, of course, cloud native by definition. But that's, again, is a way of accelerating and simplifying the delivery of this new business model and new revenue stream. So those are two important elements that we think that utilities should consider in rethinking and reimagining once again the digital experience, the online customer journey for each customer. And this is particularly important if you think about a context where the physical distancing is obviously creating the need of being more and more contactless, be more and more online. Now, I want to conclude with a specific reference to this topic of ecosystem. I know it's probably by itself something that would need more time to be addressed in a proper way, but I want to at least put the seed and a little bit of food for thoughts in all of you that are listening, because I truly believe that that's the way we will be as an industry more successful in the future, rethinking the ecosystem. Because I think that if you put yourself in the shoes of the final customer, the individual, what we really want as individual is to have one integrated experience to fulfill our needs, every single need, and even to have fulfillment for needs that we don't even know that we really have until now. And so that's the angle that we should think as a utilities industry, but as any other industry. How can we can we work with the other industry, with the other companies, to really provide this unique integrated experience. And in order to provide a little bit of suggestion, what we have done as IDC, we have created a sort of framework that is looking at the different value moment for us as individual, and we call it the living in the next normal. So you can see in the slides the different elements. The well-being, which is not just the healthcare, but really the 360 definition of well-being. We are citizen, and so we want to have a sort of different relationship with our government, with education, and with everything that is also the living in a community perspective. Housing, different kind of house where, of course, we are living, but we are also working, because we have changed our work style and model. And we are seeing, for instance, more and more new buildings that are built with some co-working spaces as default. So even if you have to work from home, you can go in these special spaces, of course, reserving, and again, have a different experience. Of course, home that can be from an energy perspective, green, having in some cases, if it's buildings or single home, renewables, electric vehicle possibility, etc. Then we have to rethink leisure. We have to rethink mobility. One thing that we have observed as not working or not scaling up quick enough is really, for instance, the e-mobility. And in our perspective, one of the reasons is because the ecosystem was not looking at, was not building up in the right way, and was not working all together to really scale up this kind of opportunity. And then, of course, you have money, shopping, things, which, for instance, for things is how can we experience products that are designed, produced, distributed and disposed in embracing the concept of the circular economy, for instance. And so why I'm describing all this? Because as utility, what we have to understand is how can we play in this story? What my company can really deliver or being involved in delivering this one integrated experience. What are the business models that are deriving from that? Which capability I need to have, and which capability I need to build by leveraging the ecosystem. And so what are the right partner I need to work with to build the ecosystem? And last but not least, which is my role in the ecosystem? And can I put myself in a sort in the control moment so that I can take out the best value from the entire story? And with that, I'm actually basically closing my presentation. Of course, I want to reiterate the aspect of think about how to take action on every single of the area that was presented at the beginning. But if you have to concentrate on three things, these are, for me, the three things: automation, digital customer experience, and the ecosystem. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Obrigada.